The year was 1888. The location, a small mountain village near what is now Suleymaniye in modern-day Iraq. It was a quiet August evening, around 8:30 p.m., when something strange lit up the sky above. Residents in a nearby town looked up and saw it, a strong, bright light, trailing smoke, tearing across the sky and heading straight toward a village. And then, stones began to fall. Not just one or two. For a full 10 minutes, rocks rained down from above. Witnesses said it was like rain, like actual rain, except made of rock. Crops were flattened, fields were torn apart, and when the dust finally settled, one man was dead. Another was paralyzed for life. Now here's the thing that makes this so wild. In all of recorded human history, with millions of meteors hitting our planet every single day, there has never been a single confirmed case, not one, of a meteorite actually killing a person. Until this. So the questions are obvious. Who was this man? How rare is this really? And why did it take over 100 years until 2020 for anyone to even discover that this happened? Was this really the only person ever killed by a rock from outer space? These are the questions we're diving into today. Let's get into it. So, before we get into what actually happened in 1888, let's talk about just how insane the odds are here. Every single day, our planet gets bombarded by millions of meteors. Millions. Most of these are tiny, like grain of sand tiny, and they burn up completely in our atmosphere before they ever get close to the ground. But some are bigger. According to NASA's own fireball records, since 1988, only 822 meteors have been large enough to actually explode in our atmosphere. That's over 30 years and still less than 1,000. Now, in terms of actually getting hit by one of these things, the odds are wild. One astronomer put your odds of dying from a meteorite strike at around 1 in 700,000 over your entire lifetime. Other estimates put it closer to 1 in 1.6 million. To put that in perspective, you are more likely to be struck by lightning, which is about 1 in 15,000, way more likely to die in a car crash. And honestly, you have better odds of winning like a decent prize in the lottery than dying from a rock falling from space. So, here's the paradox, right? Earth is getting pelted by space debris constantly, all the time, every single day. And yet for the longest time, like the entirety of recorded human history, there was not a single confirmed case, not one, of a meteorite actually killing somebody. Zero. People have obviously been hit by falling rocks and injured before. We're going to get into some of those stories later, but an actual confirmed death, that's a different level of rare. It's kind of one of those weird gaps in history, right? You'd think with billions of people who have ever lived on this planet, over thousands of years, that eventually the math would catch up and someone would get unlucky enough to be standing in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And maybe someone was. Maybe it happened plenty of times throughout history and it just was never recorded properly, or the records were lost or forgotten. So how did we finally find actual proof of this happening? Well, that's where things get interesting. It all comes down to a dusty pile of old government documents that almost nobody had bothered to look through until very recently. So, in 2020, a team of researchers made a discovery that had basically been sitting untouched for over 130 years. This team was led by a physicist named Ozan Unsalan, an associate professor at EJ University in Turkey. He worked alongside another researcher, Altay Bayatli, and an American meteorite expert named Peter Jeniskans. And what they were doing was combing through the General Directorate of State Archives of the Presidency of the Republic of Turkey. Now, This archive is massive. We are talking tens of millions of documents from the Ottoman Empire, all recently digitized. And here's the thing about the Ottomans. They recorded everything. Sultan actually said this in an interview, and I love this quote. He said, "Almost every single event was recorded in the archives. I mean, if you sneeze, it was recorded somehow. Natural events, financial issues, governmental messaging, all of it. So somewhere buried in this mountain of paperwork, the team found 3 separate letters, all written in Ottoman Turkish, all describing the exact same event. Now, here is why this took so long to discover. Ottoman Turkish is not modern Turkish. It is this old script that borrows heavily from both Arabic and Persian, and it is notoriously difficult to translate. So the researchers had to go through this incredibly tedious process, translating word by word from Ottoman Turkish into modern Turkish, and then from modern Turkish into English. It is basically a 2-step translation just to understand a single sentence. And they weren't just randomly flipping through pages either. They were specifically searching for keywords, things like meteorite, falling stones, fireballs, terms that might point them toward this exact kind of event. And eventually, after all that digging, they found it. 3 letters, all pointing to the same incident, all describing a meteor event that, as far as anyone could tell, had never been properly documented or studied before. This wasn't some obscure blog post or a second-hand legend passed down through generations. These were official government letters, written by actual local authorities at the time, describing something that had just happened. And that's a massive deal, because up until this point, there was no solid, verifiable, government-backed evidence of anyone ever dying from a meteorite strike. The researchers ended up publishing their findings on April 22, 2020, in the journal Meteoritics and Planetary Science. And what they uncovered in those 3 letters is honestly one of the wildest, most detailed historical accounts of a meteorite event that I have ever come across. So, let's actually get into what these letters said. The event itself occurred on August 22, 1888, in what is now Sulaimaniya, in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Now, quick little side note here. There is actually a small calendar discrepancy in the records. Depending on whether you are going off the old Julian calendar or the newer one being used at the time, the date might technically line up closer to August 10th. But either way, we are talking about the same event, just a little quirk in how dates were recorded back then. Around 8:30 p.m., people in a nearby village saw it happen. A strong, bright light, described almost like a fireball, accompanied by smoke, tearing across the sky and heading toward a village. And then, for about 10 minutes straight, meteorites just rained down. The documents describe it as falling like rain. Not a single rock, not a quick flash and done, but a sustained fall of stones from the sky for 10 full minutes. These stones came down on a hill, described as being pyramid-shaped, right at the edge of the village. And this is where the story turns tragic. One man was killed on impact. Another man was struck and left paralyzed. And it was not just people affected, the crops in the area were also damaged. And interestingly, the damage pattern was consistent with what you would expect from a shockwave, similar to what we have seen in other well-documented meteor airburst events. What's wild is that this wasn't just one isolated report either. There was a nearly identical account describing the same event from a nearby village, which really strengthens the credibility of the whole thing. Now, here's the part that really seals the deal on this being a legitimate historical event. These weren't just random rumors floating around a village. These letters were written by actual local officials, and one of them was reportedly the governor of Suleymaniye himself, a man named Mustafa Faik Mustafa Pasha. And it didn't stop there. This report was forwarded all the way up the chain of command to Sultan Abdul Hamid II, the 34th Sultan of the entire Ottoman Empire. The researchers actually addressed this directly in their published study, stating, and I'm paraphrasing here, that because these documents came from official government sources, written by local authorities, they had no real reason to doubt their authenticity. So, we've got multiple witnesses, official government paperwork, and a paper trail that led all the way up to the freaking Sultan. This is about as credible as historical evidence gets. Now, here's where things get a little frustrating, and honestly, kind of similar to some of these other meteor events throughout history. According to the letters, fragments were actually recovered from that pyramid-shaped hill after the event. And it seems like at least one of these letters may have originally been sent along with an actual physical sample of the meteorite itself, like they physically mailed a piece of space rock to the central government, which, if true, is incredible. That would be actual hard, physical evidence of this event. The problem is, nobody can find it. Sultan and his team searched through museums, they searched through archives, they looked everywhere they could think of, and they came up with absolutely nothing. No rock, no sample, no trace of it anywhere. And this matters more than you might think, because without an actual physical piece of this meteorite, researchers cannot confirm for certain that these stones were truly extraterrestrial. They cannot classify what type of meteorite it even was, whether it was stony, iron, something in between. All they have right now is the written testimony, which, do not get me wrong, is still incredibly strong evidence, but it is not the same as holding the actual rock in your hand. So where did it go? I do not know. Maybe it is sitting in some dusty drawer in a museum somewhere, mislabeled, forgotten, just another rock in a box that nobody has bothered to look twice at. Or maybe it never actually made it to where it was supposed to go in the first place. They are still hoping to find two things. First, that missing sample. And second, an actual reply letter from Sultan Abdul Hamid II himself, responding to this whole event. Both of these things could still be sitting somewhere in these massive archives, buried among millions of other undigitized or untranslated documents, just waiting for someone to stumble across them. So, while this 1888 case is the only confirmed death, there are actually several well-documented cases of people getting hit by meteorites and surviving. And honestly, these stories are almost as wild. The most famous one has got to be Anne Hodges. This happened in 1954 in Chelyabinsk, Alabama. Anne was just taking a nap on her living room couch, minding her own business, when a meteorite weighing about 8.5 pounds, roughly the size of a softball, came crashing through her ceiling. It bounced off a big wooden radio console in her living room and then slammed right into her thigh. She ended up with this massive, deep bruise, but incredibly, she survived. She's actually the only person we know of who was directly struck by a meteorite and lived to tell about it. And what's almost funnier than the event itself is what happened afterward. There was this whole legal battle over who actually owned the meteorite, her or her landlady, since it landed in a rental house. That's a whole story in itself. Then there's Gerrit Blank. This happened in 2009 in Germany. He was just a 14-year-old kid when a pea-sized meteorite reportedly grazed him, leaving a small injury. Definitely scared him more than anything else. But he walked away basically fine. We've also got the Peekskill, New York event in 1992, where a meteorite came down and smashed straight into somebody's parked car. No injuries there, thankfully, but imagine coming outside and finding a rock from outer space just sitting in your dented hood. And then, in 2003, in New Orleans, a 40-pound meteorite crashed straight through someone's roof. Again, miraculously, nobody was hurt. And of course, we can't forget Chelyabinsk in 2013. This was a massive airburst event over Russia that we've all probably seen footage of. Somewhere between 1,200 and 1,600 people were injured from this event. But here's the key detail. Every single injury came from the shockwave, things like broken glass, collapsing structures, not from actual falling meteorite fragments. So when you look at all of these cases together, there's this clear pattern. The sky is constantly throwing rocks at us. Cars get hit, roofs get destroyed, people get grazed and bruised, but almost never killed. It's honestly kind of remarkable when you think about it. The sheer number of near misses compared to that one confirmed death back in 1888. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but surely there have been other claims of meteorite deaths throughout history, right? And you'd be correct. There have been claims, plenty of them, actually. The problem is, almost none of them hold up when you actually look at the evidence. One of the most recent examples happened in 2016 in Tamil Nadu, India. There were initial reports that a man had been killed by a meteorite airburst, and honestly, this made headlines all over the world at the time. People were saying this was it. This was the confirmed case everyone had been looking for. But when investigators actually looked into it more closely, they determined that the explosion was not from a meteorite at all. It was actually from some kind of explosion of earthly origin, meaning something here on Earth caused it, not a rock falling from space. So that claim ended up getting debunked. And this is actually a big part of why the 1888 case is so important, and honestly, so rare. It's not that people haven't claimed meteorite deaths before, it's that hardly any of these claims come with real evidence. No official documentation, no multiple independent witnesses, nothing that would hold up to actual scrutiny. But with the 1888 case, we've got multiple separate letters, all describing the same event, all written by official government authorities, and a paper trail that led all the way up to the Sultan himself. That level of documentation is what separates this from every other claim out there. It's not just a story passed down or a rumor that spread. It's an actual verified historical record. And that's exactly why researchers are calling this the earliest confirmed case in recorded history. So, here's the bigger takeaway from all of this. The fact that we never had a confirmed meteorite death before 2020 probably doesn't mean it never happened. It probably just means nobody had actually gone looking properly. These records existed for over 130 years, sitting quietly in an archive, written in a language that almost nobody could read anymore. And that's honestly kind of wild to think about. As more of these old documents get digitized and translated, whether they are from the Ottoman Empire or from other non-English speaking cultures around the world, there's a real chance we could find more cases just like this one. Think about it. Humans have been around for thousands and thousands of years. Billions of people have lived on this planet. And when you consider how many meteors hit Earth constantly, it actually seems kind of unlikely that 1888 was truly the only time this ever happened. It's more likely that this is simply the first time we've been able to prove it happened, with actual documentation, actual evidence, and actual paper trail. So really, this isn't necessarily the story of the only person ever killed by a meteorite. It might just be the story of the only one we've found so far. So, let's go back to that quiet August evening in 1888. An ordinary man in a small mountain village, going about his life, with absolutely no idea that a rock that had been traveling through space for who knows how long was about to end everything. As far as we know, he is the first and only confirmed person in all of recorded human history to be killed by a meteorite, and his story sat completely lost for 132 years, buried in old letters, until a team of researchers happened to stumble across them. It's kind of humbling when you think about it. The sky is constantly raining rocks down on us, and the odds are so ridiculously in our favor, and yet, this one guy just drew the short straw. Makes you wonder how many other stories like this are still sitting out there, untranslated, undiscovered, just waiting in some archive somewhere. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think 1888 was really the only time this ever happened? Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.